about our traffic jams, which you are largely responsible for. So I think, I might be wrong, but we'll find out tonight. We're also going to talk about revenue collection, the good side of it, and if there is any controversial side of that. We'll also talk about education and social services. What happened to the parks? They're supposed to be libraries. Do we still need them when we have senior consultant Google and Professor Wikipedia? Do we still have a need for libraries? There is a public library in Kampala. I don't know whether you know where it is. So we'll be talking all that. And for now, let me just walk you through who we have here and what they do, so that your expectations are within a certain frame of reference. And we'll begin with the Directorate of Engineering and Technical Services. And from what I understand from the website of Kampala Capital City Authority, this directorate is responsible for designing, implementation, and maintenance of our infrastructure, as well as giving technical support and controlling infrastructure development in the city in terms of defining structure designs, carrying out roadworks, and maintenance of city infrastructure, even when there are persons who want to bring it down in the name of Okweya, whatever that means. The Directorate as well guides the authority on urban structure designs, infrastructure improvement, road network, and development in the city. I'd like to ask you to join me in welcoming Engineer Justice Akankwasa, who is responsible there, albeit in acting capacity. But if you're acting, you are still around. You're very welcome. Good evening to the audience.
Good evening, viewers.
Thank you so much. That was very brief. We do also have the Directorate of Revenue Collection. It is a directorate that is mandated to do the following, but not limited to these. That is, to review the business processes and procedures using existing guidelines, policies, and other documentation that is in place. Also does come up with a revised position which is expected to enhance revenue operations in terms of data collection and analysis. I like that bit. Also to establish a clear link between payment, collection of taxes, and provision of services which are meant to finance city activities. They also do conduct taxpayer sensitizations. I wonder whether these are conducted, but we will ask. Maybe they go on. Education and mobilization, policy review, decision making, and ultimately revenue collection maximization, and mobilizing appropriate levels of revenue, mainly from local tax base, to effect service provision and address poverty. Then why is poverty still here? Those questions will be going to Mr. Sam Serunkuma, and I do know that he has been part of Kampala for a very long time. Do you want to say good evening as well?
Thank you, Samson. Good evening, viewers. I'm happy to be here with Samson today to tell you more about what we do in the city, especially in revenue mobilization, to ensure that services are delivered.
So he's the money man, at least as far as collection is concerned. And lastly, but by no means least, we're chanced that there is a lady on the panel, and I will let you know what her name is. But for now, her responsibility is within the Directorate of Education. Yes, Education and Social Services. Now, hers is the job that is about providing, supporting, guiding, coordinating, regulating, and promoting not just education, but quality or quality education, depending on who taught you English, and as well as sports, recreation, tourism activities to the community in Kampala City that are geared towards individual and national development. And she is with us, Lady Juliet Namudu, born and bred in Kampala. True or false?
Very true.
Okay.
Good evening, all our viewers. I'm very happy to be here to talk about education and social services in cases here. It's a joy to be with you, Samson. Thank you for hosting us.
Good. So we get off. I said my name is Samson Kasumba. My dad was born here. My mom was born here. And let's get into a matter very passionate to my heart, my home. We'll begin with you, engineer. When you move around Kampala today, many people are asking whether there is a clear pattern of how we move. Roads seem not to have right of way and no right of way. Literally everybody drives on whichever side they want. That's also true for borders and expensive cars. People cross wherever they want. You wonder whether there are any zebra crossings still left in the city, or the idea of those. Is there such a thing as an organized way of movement in Kampala, or are we at God's mercy?
Thank you, Samson. As been introduced, my name is Engineer Kankwasa, and I'm the Director, Engineering and Technical Services, still in acting capacity. That's a very good question, Samson. There is a plan. KCC has developed a multimodal transport master plan. And it's a very huge plan, which is supposed to move us up to 2040. And the immediate components of that plan that are supposed to deal with efficient transport is the modernization of the transport system, transport rationalization. We would like to see how all players in the transport industry use the space we have effectively. And the KCC has carried out a study, the paratransit study, which details how we can effectively have all the players in the transport industry effectively play their role and serve the people of Kampala. Would like to see the borders, the taxis, the buses organized in such a way that they are efficiently managed. So we have that in place, and we have already started on it. But also to have an enabling infrastructure to support that system. We have a plan of having our roads modernized, having signals on our roads. And we have currently, we have already done quite a lot of roads under the Kampala improvement plan. We have done quite a lot under the funding of government of Uganda. You have seen already, we have done Acacia, it is about to be completed. Nakawantinda Road is about to be completed. We have done Kurambiro Road. We have done Kabusu. Those are being done now.
Okay.
And we are going to be having signalized junctions on all these roads. There is also a special program which is going to come very soon under the JICA, Japanese International Development Agency, of signalizing 30 junctions in the city.
Okay.
And that will help us to move traffic very fast so that we may have an efficient transport system that will help Ugandans to enjoy their city.
Engineer, as we move forward, sometimes we move but never move. You talk about signalized junctions. I also did hear somewhere a rumor that these were not just signalized junctions, but they were intelligent signalized junctions that can sort of manage traffic by themselves, notice where the vehicles are, and then release vehicle in using technology. But sometimes, I don't know about your experience, sometimes when we are driving, even through this new signalized junctions, we don't know whether it is the signalized lights working or it's the traffic officer. So as we move, are we going to have intelligence technology existing and then a human being calling us and ordering traffic? So where exactly are we? Are we going to go straight there, or are we going to have lights that we have invested a lot of money on that never work? Because Because to be honest, sometimes I've also had people say, why do they put the lights on? Let the traffic officers help us. So where are we going? We need a direction, because we are now on, and the viewers need to understand what is going to be the norm.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question, Samson. Very right. Once you have signalized junctions that still have other junctions that are still in their old way, then you can solve a problem.
Okay.
For example, if you have Kitugum Junction, and then you have a roundabout at Garden City, now that kind of flow cannot.
We can even use the Mukwano one because it's even closer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You cannot solve the problem. So what we are doing now is to ensure all junctions that lie on a route, say all junctions on Kampala Road, all junctions on Entebbe Road, Onja Road, signalized. And then we are planning to have a traffic control center
Okay.
at KCC, built and equipped, such that you can be in the control center and see all the junctions and see how traffic is building up. And then the system will be in such a way then that you can program so that where you see heavy traffic, it is given more time.
Okay.
So that kind of intelligence will be all integrated in the whole system.
Okay, and maybe this would be for the benefit of Mr. Serunkuma, talking revenue collection. In some parts of the world where I've scattered myself, there's also a revenue bit to this, in the sense that once you have this intelligence, it means that if somebody beats lights, like I did somewhere else, the receipt comes straight to the address. And in a way, you cannot access social services and all until you've cleared that receipt. Is that also in the master plan?
Definitely, we are working with the police. As we work on this traffic movement, definitely we work with the police. And as you are aware, we have these now, the CCTV cameras, which we too will be putting in our systems, so that all this together with the police is, we enhance that. We enhance the discipline among the drivers in the city.
Okay, let's move away from there. I'll still stay with you for a little bit. I've lived in this city for close to about 46 years, and this is what I know. A, it has always rained. B, it has not always flooded. Flooding is a little bit recent. One could argue that it is population growth. But to that, another could say that if that population growth happens in a city where you have planning and engineering, then there is a system of moving water from every roof through an organized plan all the way to Lake Narubali. Given that context and your office, why are there still floods?
Thank you, Samson. Why floods? As you rightly stated, the systems now that you see in Kampala were implemented long time ago. And as they were designed for a period of time. You design a road for 20 years, 15 years. You design, when you're designing a road, you have put those culverts that cross the road. You are taking care of the flow of water that comes to that spot, depending on the current development and the future development, maybe for 20 years. But over the years, as you have seen, the city has quite grown. And that's why Kampala City Capital City Authority has put what we call the Kampala Drainage Master Plan.
Fantastic.
The Kampala Drainage Master Plan is a well-documented plan that has given us a direction for the next 10 years. And in there, it's clearly indicated that we need now to deal with all these systems, expand them, those crossings which were designed long ago need to be actually multiplied like 3 times so that water can easily move. So all the drainage systems now have been designed, and we have even started implementing. In the next financial year, we'll be dealing with those spots, black spots, given the resources that we have. We'll be dealing with the expanding those crossings, the box culverts. We're going now to change the culverts, which are those circular structures, and they are very, very small. We are now going into box culverts, which can accommodate a lot of water flow across the roads.
Okay.
And we are targeting like 9 positions in the city in the next financial year. So there is a plan, and it's well clear where we are going. As we get resources, we definitely know what to do now.
Okay, and so in a nutshell, I hear you saying that for some time Kampala might as well be a huge construction site. But my interest here, and probably the viewers, could also be, wouldn't it be unfortunate that we build a road that has beautiful walkways, then we come back to cut through it to build a drainage system according to the plan? So is the plan moving so systematically that first the drainage, everything in there, then the road, and not the other way around?
Exactly. That's why we are saying now we are beginning with those spots before we do the roads.
Okay.
We need to have the drainage systems crossing those roads fixed so that we do not incur extra costs repeating what should have been done first.
Thank you. And let's bring in Lady Juliet Namudu here to mix it up in terms of audiences coming out of this live broadcast. When some people went to school back in the day, it was very common that when you looked at, for instance, PLE results, Nakasero Primary School on top, Buganda Road Primary School on top, Shimone Demonstration School on top, Chitande Primary School on top, government schools, KCC schools, which is literally KCCA. I'm not so sure that's still the case. What happened?
Thank you very much, Samson. It's very true that very many of our viewers went to school in the schools you've mentioned in Kampala. And for a while, it's true we were not the top notch schools, but I want to tell you that we have started moving towards that direction very, very consistently. One of the things that we're very proud of, the 79 government-aided schools in Kampala, is that we have started by making sure that we prepare those schools to be conducive learning environments for our children. We may not have all of them with lovely roofs and good structures, but we're making do with what we have. All the 79 government-aided schools, when you visit them now, are clean, are conducive. We are monitoring and supervising. We are having conversations with our head teachers. We are motivating them. We are motivating the learners and the school management committees. And when we have started doing that, the results are improving. Okay. Infrastructure is very, very important. So we are working very hard towards improving our infrastructure and even constructing some more of these structures. I'll say to you, even in the secondary schools, we have built a fully fledged USE school, because when children come from the primary school, where do they go at secondary school? So infrastructure development, we have secured the land. We have 12 of these schools with land titles so that we don't have anyone encroaching on them. We have received lease titles, offers from ULC, from Buganda Land Board. Some of them are peppercorn, we don't have to pay anything. Others, we have to pay a bit of money. But why are we doing that? To protect these schools and make sure that they are accessible to our learners. Universal primary education has enabled many learners who may in the past not have come to school because the parents couldn't afford those middle-class schools. But right now, we have over 70,000 learners in those 79 schools. What does that say to us? That we have more children attending school and completing their cycle of primary school. So we are intent on making sure that we excel, that we have good conducive learning environments. I will tell you, in 2010, the pupil toilet stance ratio was 118 pupils to 1 stance. As we speak now, we've improved these toilet facilities for our children. We've constructed with partners. We have biogas toilets. In KCCA, we are moving away from pit latrines to better structures so that when the child comes to school, they're happy. They can use the facilities. The girl child can stay in school. And 2019 was our starting point. We were the best in the entire country as a city in the PLE exams. We were very proud of that, and we're moving forward in that direction, and we hope that we'll eventually be those schools that you remember with very good results and good learning environments.
And to be fair enough, I can understand when you say that UPE sort of came in and we had to adjust to that, because then you have to strike a balance between quality and quantity. But because your mandate is very clear, promoting quality education, it seems you have taken the direction of quality sits above quantity. Is it part of the plan anywhere that at least you pick 1-2 schools and you deliberately make them top schools in the country, so that there is a push for quality in other schools, but in these, they are top? Is that part of the plan?
It is indeed. We are calling them model schools. I would like our viewers to visit schools like Isasi Primary School that has been completely renovated. And when some parents get there, they think they're going to a private school, but it's a government-aided school. So we would like to make sure that at the end of it all, we have all the 79 schools as model schools, if I must say. We're starting small, every division having a model school, and at the end of the day, we will have all of them in that condition, so that they're really worthwhile for our learners and they get a very good education from there.
Of course, when we went to school, it was very common that the children of the persons that worked in KCC went to the schools that belong to KCC. Is that still the case? Because it would be quite interesting for persons pushing quality education and promoting quality education in KCCA when their children are going to private education, which is not top quality education, at least from their argument.
A good
Close
number,
to the skin there.
A good number of our staff have children in KCCA, and I want in the schools. And I must say to you that with the improvements that we're making, if you visit schools like St. Peter's, if you go to Kitante, where you've talked about, the parents now want to come. So the middle-class parents who had taken their children to private schools are beginning to return and bring them back to the government-aided schools. So we are really intent as a team of the staff in KCCA, the head teachers and all the members in the schools, to make our schools the schools of choice for the parents of Kampala.
Okay. We have a very interesting situation. Some say to a certain extent that government has sort of ceded that space to the private player, who is not as much as an educator as they are an investor making money. And that means in some cases cutting corners. I'll ask questions about who is allowing education to go on in a place where there's concrete and no play fields and all, and yet education happens both in the classroom and outside of that classroom. Do you think that it becomes imperative and important for your department to regulate, especially now that so many are coming into the education space, not because they care about education, but the money involved, and pretend to be educators?
I understand. I will relate to what my colleague said about what used to happen 20, 40 years ago with a number of people who were here. In Kampala, we have over 2,000 schools. But I will tell you, out of those, we have only 79 government-aided schools. But we have all these children around us. The children in Kampala, whether they go to the private schools or the government-aided schools, are our children. And therefore, as a directorate, we look after all of them. what does that say to you? That we can't have all these children in the 79 schools, much as they're full. There are 70,000 children there. We have to work together with the private sector and make sure, and that's what we do, and make sure that they give the learners the right education. Secondly, because of the number of children in our city and the schools that have to be built, definitely for sure, not all of them have the play spaces, like you've said. It's very true that a child has to grow up in a holistic environment. They need to play, and play is more fun. They learn through play. So what are we doing with the schools like this is we encourage them to work in partnership with the schools that have play spaces. So if a government-aided school has a play space close to a private school that doesn't, they work together to make sure that there is a timetable. We have five officers in sports who visit the schools and they encourage them to play in these other spaces so that it's a holistic education. But what am I emphasizing? We can't have all the children in Kampala attending the 79 schools.
I agree. I don't know whether as a regulator you've moved around and seen a school and even you asked, how did we license this? Has that ever happened to you? And you think, because what I'm driving here is that once you have 79 governments in amongst over 2,000, then the job of regulation, making sure that these people who came here to make money out of education play by the rules.
True.
Are we strong on regulation and inspection?
We are doing our very best with the team that I work with to inspect, to regulate, and we don't work alone. We work with the Directorate of Education Standards, with the Ministry of Education and Sports. And I'll tell you, schools that do not meet the criteria, basic requirements and minimum standards, are actually closed. We've a few times closed schools that are not up to speed with what is required of them. So we do that.
And trying to resist the temptation of mentioning some schools that don't meet those standards, because I've read some of the rules by which they should play. If God is not with me, some names might be coming off air, but for now, I will certainly listen to the Holy Spirit. Coming to you, Mr. Sam Serunkuma, we are talking revenue collection. Is Kampala self-reliant as far as revenue collection is concerned? Or to ask simply, are we getting enough money to finance his projects and hers? Or do you sit out there at City Hall and they're thinking you're failing them?
Thank you, Samson. Of course, the potential is there, but we are not yet there to collect enough revenue to finance all the facilities and the infrastructure which Kampala people need. As a city, we are administering local taxes. Local taxes include property tax, we collect ground rent, we collect local service tax, we collect local hotel tax, we collect market dues. Of course, you know what market trades in. Tomatoes.
Those seem to be the most controversial.
Yes, we collect money from there. And until 3 years ago, we used to collect money from taxis and special hires and buses. So these are local taxes which we collect, and they may not be adequate enough to finance the infrastructure. Of course, the infrastructure is majorly funded by the central government. However, we are doing all what we can to improve revenue administration. Over years, we have moved away from collecting 30 billion to the current 90 billion. That's a very big landmark, and that one does not include the taxi fees, which was suspended in the last 3 years. If it were there, then it would have reached to over 100 billion shillings by now.
So, just to be clear here, 90 billion sounds a huge figure.
Oh, yes.
But what percentage is it of what you need to run the city?
To run the city, we get from central government 540 billion.
And it comes on time?
It comes in phases. They cannot release it at a go. It is released quarterly, but it comes. Okay. So this is a small fraction compared to what central government is. We have plans, however, to ensure that we move gradually to finance the financing of activities in the city. We have, like I've informed you, over the time, improved on our revenue administration. We found a manual system. And during those times, people used to get a lot of money in the manual system. We have since automated our systems and made it simple for the taxpayers to pay.
Okay.
Initially, it would take someone, for example, in a trading license, 30 days to obtain a trading license. That was our major target, to simplify payment. We have automated, and someone can pay from anywhere. He can pay using mobile money and other facilities which are available. And now getting a trading license is as simple as anything. You can even print it once you have paid. That's how far we have gone. Okay. So it takes minutes to get a trading license. We have also simplified.
Wait a second. So do I go to the internet, assess myself, pay, print it out, and when your people come, I have everything?
And unfortunately,
or somebody else does the assessment?
Unfortunately, you have to register with us.
Okay.
Fortunately,
yes.
Fortunately, you have to register with us, because all operators in the city, the business people, must have a city operators tax number.
Okay.
Once you get this one, you can easily enter the system, and then you bill yourself, because the licenses have got standard figures. Okay. And once you pay, the system can prompt you to print your trading license. Okay. So we have improved that. Okay. Through the World Bank also.
So still on that, because I want the viewers to know, do you have a standard, for instance, that a salon in Chaliwajala, no, that's outside, a salon in Nakawa and a salon in Kololo don't pay the same money because they are all salons?
Absolutely. The figures of trading licenses are determined by Ministry of Trade.
Okay.
So its purpose is to regulate. And what happens is that people are expected to be pushed away from the center. Okay. It is cheaper to pay a trading license when you're outside Kampala center, okay, than when you're on Kampala Road. Okay. The fees on Kampala Road or in the center and the CBD are relatively high.
And it is deliberate?
It is deliberate. Okay. It is deliberate. Okay. So I was continuing to tell you that through our bank, we have been able to value all the properties in the city. The last evaluation was conducted in 2005, and we have since lost a lot of money because we do not have enough funds to conduct valuation. This valuation has been done using a massive computer-aided valuation, whereby we may not need to go back to capture the same aspects of the building. We have captured everything. We had to hire someone to capture a 3-imagery picture for each property, whether it's commercial or residential. Unfortunately, the residential buildings don't pay, but we captured them. And through that process, we have been able to mobilize a lot of money. We registered over 300,000 properties, and they are now paying. In the last 3 years, when this exercise was conducted, property tax rose from 30 billion to 75 billion. And this does not include some of the buildings which were never captured. And as of now, we are conducting what we call supplementary valuation to ensure that all the properties in the city are brought on board. We expect another 20,000 properties to come on board, and therefore we expect that property tax is going to be one of the major sources for the city. We have also ensured that we are in good terms and talking terms with the taxi people. The law for commercial road user fees, it's called the Parker fee, was signed last year, and they ought to have started paying money. However, because of COVID, government has been engaging them so that we collect when actually these people are not incapacitated. Okay. You see, they live hand to mouth. So once these people start paying, in a few months' time, we are going to increase on our revenue collection. Ground rent is another source of revenue, like I've told you. This is administered through the Kampala District Land Board, which is supposed to be the keeper of all land which is owned by Kampala, and we get ground rent. they keep on reviewing the leases. Like you who has been in Kampala, you know that there are leases in Kampala which belong to Kampala. There are leases which belong to the central government under the Uganda Land Commission, and there are leases which belong to Buganda government. So ours which belong to Kampala district are administered by the Kampala District Land Board, but the money is collected by us. Of recent, there have been changes in the rates which are paid in the markets. They have been lowered because these are called mufunampola, the people who earn a little, and this is supposed to be a bed, a nursery bed for business people. So the president thought it necessary that these people should pay a little bit lower amount of money to kickstart their businesses. And we are implementing them. We are working around the clock to ensure that the ordinance which can enable us collect those lower figures can be done very quickly. We are also collecting hotel tax. Hotel tax is collected from people who reside in hotels. However, like you know, the last 1 year has been bad. Hotels have not been very operational because the visitors are few because of COVID. So the income from hotels has dwindled. We also collect local service tax from you people who work in gainful employment.
Yes.
We collect 100,000 for people. Majorly, this has been the average figure, though it ranges from 50,000 and above. So this has been another source of income for us. We know that the city needs a lot of money. So we are thinking ahead. What would be the future if these taxes are the only ones which we are collecting? Okay. Would they be enough? Okay. So we are looking at the future. What can we collect? We have empty land, for instance. There are empty land in these prime areas of Naguru, prime areas of Kololo. But these areas get services from Kampala, capital city. They have street lights. Imagine lighting an empty land. Imagine if there were garbage.
Street lights exist?
Yeah, they exist. Okay. They do exist. Okay. But we pay for them.
Somebody said that there's a concept note of street lights.
Oh, they are there. Of course, these are bulbs. They keep on knocking and they have to be replaced. Where we have not replaced, there will be darkness. Okay. But very often you find out that those empty land, those empty places of land are our target because there will be areas for thugs. So we put lights there. So if someone has not developed land, it doesn't pay us anything because there's no property. Okay. So we are thinking about taxing empty plots. Okay. We are also thinking about floating the Kampala bond. The Kampala bond, as I think it's high time we started this, like any other city. We front a bond and people come and buy, and they can be able to finance projects which are much needed in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well, thank you. And we'll come back to you a little later. It's interesting how this is working. Maybe I could ask, how do you explain to Chitio Zephaniah why the land is his, he built the house with his own money, and all of a sudden he's paying for that house tax? He would ask, Niban wateka muchi.
Oh, very interesting.
What did they invest in?
Can I take it on?
Yes.
There are laws which govern the city.
Okay.
Once you live in the city, there are obligations which you are supposed to meet, which are not met by people who live in the villages because of the services we enjoy.
Okay.
In the city, save for the Maram roads which appear somewhere, you are supposed to be enjoying those nice roads. You are supposed to be enjoying the Tamaka roads. You are supposed to be enjoying collection of garbage. You are supposed to be enjoying the street lights and the ambience of the city.
Okay.
Just imagine going to the village and tell them that I live in Kampala. That's good enough. Okay. So that one has got a cost. Okay. And it's that cost where we tell you that out of the money which you earn, please contribute something to Kampala capital city. It's only for commercial properties which are rented out.
Okay. So the fact that he tells his clients, no, come to my property because it's close to a paved road, that is why he should pay.
Absolutely. That's one of the factors. In fact, where we have paved roads,
okay,
the value of properties has gone so high, and people would like to live there because they don't want mud.
Okay.
So there's value for that.
So those who don't want to pay can as well find property where the roads are not paved.
Not
but
quite.
the roads are also being paved quite fast. He's paving roads left, right, and center.
Even where there are Maram roads,
yes,
because Maram roads belong to us, we grade them and we sweep them.
Okay.
And you have to pay something.
I'm yet to see when they're being swept. But to be honest, people are sweeping roads. Coming to you, I'm looking at here your mandate. We're talking structure designs, carrying out roadworks and maintenance of city infrastructure, especially on the element of design. There are people, not me, there are some who don't understand how designs come out and at the end of the project, there's a staircase on a street walk. Then there's also the question, who is designing these structure designs that fall before they are completed? I think one fell today. So far from what I've heard, nobody's dead, but a building has fallen. Do we have a plan to check? Because to be honest, the building is a very old building. Do we have a plan to check, especially on the old ones, which one is in good place for human habitation, which one should be raised? What's the plan in that direction in terms of designing and making sure that whatever we have and supervising is going according to what was submitted?
Thank you, Sir Samson, for that question. As a city, indeed, we are in charge of developments in the city in terms of construction of buildings. And government has put in place the Building Control Act. And that is an enabling law that empowers us now to go closely into the development that is taking place in the city. And now there is an establishment of the building committee, and we have now moved. There is also the building code that has been put in place, such that every design that comes is subjected to the building code. And if it does not go through, pass through that sieve, then it is rejected.
Okay.
So there is that attempt. We are moving forward in that direction, and definitely will be going even to those buildings that needed to be upgraded.
Okay. You mentioned the building code, and I hope that I want to know whether I understand you right. There are people who go to certain places because there are bungalows there. And then all of a sudden, next door, it's their property, somebody puts up 14 stories apartments. And the person is thinking, when I came here, I didn't want to live in the same vicinity with apartments. Is that what you're saying, that there will be a code that if it is apartments, it is this place, not that place? Because it seems as if now anything can happen anywhere.
Thank you, Samson. That's not the building code.
Okay.
That's a physical planning issue.
What's the code?
The code gives you the standards. How should the building look like?
Okay.
How should the ventilation be? If you are putting the drainage systems, how should they look like? Where should the septic tank be? What distance should it be from the building? If it is a reinforced structure and it is moving up, what strength of those columns should they be?
Okay.
The concrete. That's the building code.
Okay.
It gives those standards. The sizes, if it's a public building, does it have a fire
exit?
Fire exit, fighting systems, are they there? Is it accessible to people with a disability?
Yes.
That's the code. It's very detailed, so detailed that
There's a building that has been in this town, came up, I think, in the 80s and 90s. It's on Bombo Road. Two people cannot come down the staircase at the same time.
Exactly.
I won't mention the building, but I think you know it.
So that's what that building code will not allow. Every
It's
design
interesting that
comes-
the two of you on this panel know the building. Go on with the building code.
Yes. So every building, every design that comes is subjected to that code.
Okay. So would we then get to the place where buildings like that will have to be raised? Because if the structures
As we move-
were wrong, I don't think there is place to improve.
Yes, as we move forward, as we get into the inspection of these buildings, definitely will require people to retrofit, to upgrade these buildings,
Okay.
to make sure they conform to the code.
And where they can't be upgraded, too bad.
If it can't be habitable, if it can't be accessed, if it is dangerous for human habitation,
Caterpillars. I like
we
live
bring
TV.
caterpillars.
Raising them. I would like to do live TV
yes, we need to save
there. Are
lives.
we going to get that serious?
Yes,
How many years from now?
we are going to begin.
We're going to begin.
We are going to begin. We are moving in that direction.
We're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And we'll certainly still be coming back to you in a bit. But let's get to the lady here in charge of social services.
Yes.
First of all, social services. I want our viewers to understand, what do you mean by social services in Kampala?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Samson. Social services represents sports, tourism, recreation, and libraries. So those are components that are part of our directorate. And the beauty about the social services is that it cuts across the schools and the communities where we live. So when you look at schools, we make sure that the learners in our schools participate in sports. They go for competitions. They have music, dance, and drama. I'll say to you, as Kampala, we were the best in music, dance, and drama almost 3 years in a row. We've taken our children across the country to participate in national sports activities. We have community sports. 2 years ago, we opened up, or we started a program for the para sports. That is sports for the special needs community in our city. And they have an event every year where they come together and have fun. We have 6 clubs comprising KCCA FC, netball, volleyball, basketball, and that brings along very many young people who taken up by KCCA to play in these sports clubs. We have lots of games that with corporate leagues. We have Directorate games. So sports is a whole arm on that part, or a whole unit. Then tourism, we work in partnership with the Ministry of Wildlife, Tourism and Antiquities. We work with Uganda Tourism Board. We work with the Uganda Wildlife Authority. Many of our viewers have walked or driven past through the Killer Road and seen the monuments that are representing the national parks in Uganda. We have the Royal Mile with all those clan totems on there. We work together with the public health, with revenue, and with the ministry and UTB to inspect hotels. We did that last year just to look at how they were managing with the COVID-19. We have a web portal that promotes tourism. Libraries, again, cuts across. And before I leave tourism, like I said, everything starts in the schools as well. We would like all our learners to visit, because there is so much farming a child learns from the environment. Okay. So we are encouraging field trips in our schools. We have libraries. In all our 79 schools, we have introduced small mini libraries because I know we all want to go e-reading, but if we don't have the e-resources, at least we must have the hard books that our children can read. We have a library at the City Hall, we have a library for children at Rubaga Division, we have another one for the adults there, and all that is part of the education and social services that we work with.
And it's a good idea on Chilla Road.
Yes.
But there have been questions on the finishing, and somebody has said, is it deliberate that since we're promoting wildlife, that these monuments are in a bush because that's how wildlife works?
I wouldn't say that. We work together with the Directorate of Physical Planning. They have a landscape team that works with us in the Directorate to make sure that these spaces are beautiful and they're used by the public. But we also want to make sure that we can protect them from vandalism, from being broken, but we enjoy them together.
Okay. I thought the bush was deliberate because you don't want an elephant to be walking in lush green / compound, because then that's not wildlife. Thank you for your answer. But in about 5 minutes, because we're due for our break, in terms of where you are, do you think that we are going in the right direction in terms of making available money for the massive projects that we are undertaking? Or are you saying that you want Kampalans to expect that fees will go up? Because what we want to do is huge, and it will require support of everybody.
Thank you, Samson. I think before I go to that, I need to point out that we are building on the theme of a smart city.
Okay.
And under a smart city, we are supposed to do things, automated things, which will create efficiency and effectiveness for the people of Kampala. And I'm certain that we are in a right direction. What we need to do is to ensure that the laws which can govern us in mobilizing these resources are put in place. Very many times, we have been limited by the regulations, especially at lower level, the ordinances. Take an example of the outdoor advertisement. We were recently in court and we lost the case because we didn't have an enabling law. We also have issues with the taxis, which paid some money some times ago. The laws were not enabling. But once there are enabling laws, then it is true that we are in the right direction. We will also continue to engage the people. Engaging the people means that we are going to do taxpayer education. You talked about it. We conduct a lot of taxpayer education to bring on board the taxpayers, to understand where they are paying their taxes and the type of taxes they pay. And of course, this time around, we have brought on board the local council chairmen to ensure that we move with them in mobilizing residents in paying taxes. And once this is done, we are not going to increase taxes. Another aspect we are doing is formalizing businesses.
Okay.
This is done together with the Uganda Registration Service Bureau to ensure that these businesses which are informal are formalized. And once they are formalized, we teach them bookkeeping, some of the aspects of business. And if we do this, I'm sure that we are going to have many businesses brought on board and therefore will be collecting more taxes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Serunkuma. Thank you so much, Lady Namudu, and thank you so much, Engineer Akankwasa. You're watching Spotlight Uganda, and this evening, Monday evening, we are spotlighting the city here, and we're hearing what plans there are to make Kampala better. You realize you miss Kampala when you fly out of Kampala and go to some place. For some reason, Kampala is a place you miss. We're talking about getting it to be much better than it is. When we come back, chances are we will turn up the heat because we will be eyeing the end of the show. Don't you go away, because if you do, you'll be sorry you did. We'll see you in a bit.
Kampala, capital city of Uganda, the place many a Ugandan chooses to work and live. Home to 2 million people by night and provides livelihood to over 5 million by day, from living conditions to working ones, from infrastructure to, well, just about everything. This Monday, 15th March 2021, Kampala Capital City Authority, KCCA, joins Samson Kasumba to, among other things, speak Kampala Smart City. From where Kampala has been to where we are now and where we want to be, clearly outlining how we get there. Spotlight UG, Mondays at 10 p.m, live on UBC TV.
Wait.
No one should stop you from finishing what's yours. That's why MTN gives you data bundles that don't expire. Load MTN Freedom Bundles using My MTN app and enjoy the freedom to finish your data bundles. MTN.
Today tastes like a new tradition, like an old favorite. Tastes like all hands on deck and all eyes on the prize. Today tastes like a piece of the action, and it never tasted this good.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
That's their way of stopping HIV. What about you?
Hello, my name is Dr. Henry Dogu, a consultant in hematology and oncology. Health promotion and disease prevention programs focus on keeping people healthy. They aim to engage and empower individuals and communities to choose healthy behaviors and make changes that reduce the risk of developing chronic diseases and other illnesses. Join me on New Health Chat every Thursday at 9 p.m. on UBC TV, sponsored by National Medical Stores, who are mandated to procure, store and distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.
Uganda, the land of sunshine. Breathtaking, stunning sights, incredibly extensive large greenery. Variety of wild animals and bird species. A wide range of luxury holiday facilities. Diverse, rich culture. The home of beautiful, welcoming, hospitable people. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
If you want to benefit from the cabbage, you can decide to go for the dry season planting or the wet season planting. Those are key things to look at. But the other bit is about the yield and the maturity period.
Agriculture has been for years forming the backbone of Uganda's economy, contributing approximately 37% of local growth, with 80% of the population practicing agriculture.
Green tea is different from black tea. Green tea does not go through the fermentation process of the factory, meaning that it has retained all the medicinal values in it.
This is a good leaf for plucking. When it is already marked, so like it has the marks, it is very easy for a farmer to just follow those markings and then drop.
Join us every Wednesday as we showcase comprehended and well-researched episodes on agriculture, on the new innovations, planting, harvesting, modern technologies, and more. You would like to know
Kampala, capital city of Uganda, the place many a Ugandan chooses to work and live.
Kampala is my home. It is home for many of you. Unlike many of you, some of you, it is home during the year, and on Christmas you go home. For me, Kampala is home, and during Christmas, transport to my village is raised by 500 shillings, and that is a huge raise from Kampala to Buziga, and no qualms about it. I am that way, like Dalton, like Kagwanjala. For us, home is Kampala. And we have the Directorate of Engineering and Technical Services. The director is here. He insists he's acting. Engineer Justice Akankwasa has given us fantastic plans on where we are going in terms of infrastructure and dealing with drainage. We also do have the Director for Revenue Collection, a very nice gentleman. He's been smiling the entire evening while he's been talking about very difficult matters. We're talking revenue collection. Some of you don't even want to pay, but you are asking for roads and services. I don't know how you expect those services to come when you don't want to contribute, but he's here, Mr. Sam Serunkuma, and the Director for Education and Social Services. She's been preaching the gospel of education and tourism here, Lady Juliet Namudu. They are here for another hour as we put the questions before them. Some questions have come on social media. Keep the questions coming. as we get into the program. I'll take some of the questions that have come before we go back to the original one. Somebody has been asking here, according to you professionals, what causes traffic jam in Kampala? Some people have argued that it's because our roads are narrow, until you go to Italy and England and you find out that there's just about the same sizes of roads. What causes our traffic jam? Is it the size of roads or the heads behind the steerings, or both?
Very good question. Thank you, Samson. And thank you, viewers, for that question that has come through. A number of factors that cause these jams. And one is drivers' indiscipline. When we are driving on these roads, you can clearly see how we overtake in places where we are not supposed to overtake. You reach a junction, someone doesn't want to give the other the right of way.
I've been insulted when I have right of way, and people ask what's wrong with my head.
Exactly. One will hoot and say, why are you not moving? And when you move, you block someone coming. So that's one factor. We need to have discipline in the way we drive and have respect for the others on the road. Two, as I had already said.
And in that direction, allow me also to ask, because this is going to have to be, because we're talking about getting Kampala to be orderly. At what point do you involve cabinet? Because some argue that it will have to take a very big decision, because the number of very, 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 very important people in Kampala has increased, and we have moved from lead cars to people driving on the other side and insulting those who are supposedly on the right side. So now we don't know who is on the right side of the road. Have you noticed that?
Yes, I've noticed that. But what I was coming to, maybe a solution also, is that still our infrastructure needs improvement.
Okay.
And that's why Kampala, capital city, is moving into the direction of turning these junctions into signalized junctions.
Okay.
So that we remove the deadlock that happens on roundabouts and on junctions that are not signalized.
Okay.
I have seen that even with these lead cars, at least when they reach on traffic lights, many of them respect the traffic lights.
I'm not so sure I have seen that.
Some don't, but some do.
Okay.
So I hope that once we have done that, then to inculcate more discipline in driving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a massive education? Because I don't know how persons who don't know that somebody on the right has right of way are going to be dealt with.
Very right, Samson.
The reason I ask this, I've spoken to some persons managing our traffic in traffic police, and they tell you they have resigned because the number of untouchables is just too many. And in the argument, I'm not going to mention names, if you insist, you might be slapped or transferred to God knows where. So we're in a very difficult place. How do we bring back order onto our roads? I think many Kampalans believe that it's gotten to a point where we all now want to contribute to going back to what it should be, not what it is.
You're right. I think as a city, and actually that's what the philosophy now we are embracing, that we need to connect with the stakeholders in the city. We need to sensitize, we need to engage. So as we move on, as we see these challenges, we will be having precision engagement.
Okay.
Whereby we now target that group and engage them and discuss issues because all of us really understand that once we do not abide by the rule, then there is disorder.
Okay. Yeah. There's another person asking here and that when is a border-free zone beginning? I think what they're asking is, must there be borders in every part of the city? In a city in which non-communicable diseases are rising simply because we are not exercising enough, will we really implement border-free zones, or are we dealing with people that are untouchable?
Very good question. I had earlier on hinted on the study we have carried out. As a city, we are really concerned about having an efficient transport. If you are to become a smart city,
okay,
then you've got to have an efficient transport system. And we have carried out a study, the paratransit study, where all players in the transport sector can be organized to offer the service. What are we saying? We are saying that under an organized system, we can still have borders, we can still have taxis, we can still have buses, we can still have light rail, all working together,
okay,
feeding into the whole efficiency of the transport system. So we need to organize the sector. And what we are now moving to, we are going to be having border registration. So far we have carried out a census of all their stages, and we have put in place what a stage should look like. There is a criteria that we have put that a stage should have these standards, and after that we'll have to engage them,
okay,
sensitize them, educate them.
But after
so
you
that
do
they
all
are
that,
organized.
after you do all that, they seem to run to a place. I've forgotten the name of the place, but they always run somewhere. I can't really recall the place, but there's a place they run, and by the time they are done with that place, KCCA goes quiet. I don't know whether you know the place. You might remember the place. I don't.
Samson, normally they run to the place when they have not been engaged.
Do you know the place?
But when we engage them,
okay,
then you block that space.
Okay.
Because you have engaged them, and you have taught them, and you have shown them the right solution. Everyone wants an organized city.
Okay.
We want to see a situation where they go digital. Why would you all park, for example, on Numapera? You find there thousands of borders. Why? And yet, when you...
There's even now a stage owner to whom you pay goodwill.
Exactly. And yet, you have this safe border where you just go on your app and you are at City Hall, and the border comes for you. So there is a way in which we need to organize and modernize.
Okay.
And that's where we are going.
Okay, thank you very much. Keep the questions coming. As they do come, I'll continue to raise them here. You spoke about tourism.
Yes.
In places where cities make a fortune out of tourism, I've been little to Rome. The figures are incredible. I've also been to this place where you have Portugal, Fatima. They make a lot of money from religious tourism. Wouldn't it be important for Kampala to preserve its history? Sometimes I see buildings that would have been tourism potential raised down, and I'm also not sure that some of those that come in their places are anything near as beautiful as the ones they were taken down, but maybe that's for fiscal planning. But what plan is there in safeguarding and antiquating and preserving some important places and buildings and all as we build ourselves as a tourism destination?
Thank you very much, Samson. We, as Kampala, we are very lucky to have quite a number of buildings that are historically religious spaces, but other different structures that are very historical. And KCC, in partnership with Cross Culture Foundation Uganda, actually came up with an entire list of all these structures and where they are located. It is very ideal for us as much as possible, and like you've said, it's really more physical planning, but in our perspective as tourism, we would like to encourage that these structures are maintained. They are used as museums, as spaces where people can come and visit and learn the history of Uganda and have conversations with the people who are managing them so that they take away with them who we are. So we are hoping that going forward, most of these structures will be maintained, and the owners can work around them, can work with physical planning, Directorate, and everybody else who matters. There is a bill of ordinance that is coming through to protect these historical structures. We hope if it is approved and it's finalized, many of them will be protected and they'll come to stay with us and be useful in tourism.
Okay. Are we developing a center where somebody ships into Kampala, goes to this center, gets information, a tourist map, and they can take themselves around? Of course, there are some people who like adrenaline rushes who will be shipped here or ship themselves here just to have a border ride as a tourism experience, because our borders are such a fantastic rush of blood. And the Americans who like this, but we have to sell it that way and being very deliberate about that. Yeah. Do we have plans in that direction?
Yes, we do. KCCA works very closely with several partners, and in this area, we're working with the Uganda Wildlife Authority to come up with a tourism information center. This center is almost complete. It's in our grounds at KCCA grounds near the Sheraton Hotel. Very soon, it will be opened up for all the tourists, both domestic and international tourists. You will walk through, pick up your tickets to wherever you want to go in this country. But we also want to add another touch. It's something that we're thinking about. In addition to traveling out of the city or within the city, we'd also like to have spaces where the tourists can get to know more about our culture, more about the food that we eat, more about the clothes that we wear and how they're made. So a lot is happening in that area. And that tourism center will comprise of also the different artifacts that we have in our city or in our country. So yes, to answer your question, a tourism information center is soon to be opened, and it's courtesy of our partnership with Uganda Wildlife Authority. And once it does, it will be a joy for all the domestic and international tourists.
You mentioned, I hope I got you right, that what is called Sheraton Gardens are your grounds.
They're KCCA Gardens, yes.
And that means they are grounds of the
for the public.
Of the public.
Yes, please.
So would it be right for somebody to pay to take wedding pictures there when they are the owners?
I know that while they are gardens for KCCA, they are maintained by the Sheraton Garden. By the Sheraton Hotel. So there is an MOU that we sign with them on a regular basis in that regard. But also, it's very important for our people to know that it's one of the few parks that we have left in this city that they can enjoy as well.
Okay. Sam, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, because I wanted to add something that these gardens are maintained. Okay. Maintaining flowers expensive. So we signed an MOU with Sheraton Hotel to manage it on our behalf. And of course, to manage it, it incurs costs on electricity, on watering, and I think it is important that someone contributes a fee in order to use the gardens.
Is that the same arrangement with the ones on Chira Road?
Chira Road?
Behind the big restaurant. I don't want to be advising people.
No, those, I think we...
Because I've also seen property of KCCA not for sale.
Those are our gardens as well.
Okay.
And yes, they're right behind the City Oil and...
that restaurant there.
Yes,
I don't want to advertise anyone for free.
Yes, don't. But then, yes, it's true. That is a space as well that people of Kampala can use to relax, to unwind, to have small get-togethers, and for the children to play as well.
And sadly, quite a number of those kinds of spaces are diminishing. It's as if we are against free spaces. Is there anything being done for those left, if you still own some space, and B, to work around having some other space that parents who live in apartments, which are fast becoming the in thing, can take kids to play and all? Are you working around that direction?
Yes, we are. One of the things that we're still lucky with to have in our city is that some of our schools have quite fair spaces for play, and in partnership with different partners.
Land grabbers don't think like you think.
I know, yes. But a child, when you're an educationist, you must make sure that you bring up a holistic child. A child who has a chance to play, a child who has a chance to do so many things. So play is very, very important. So what we've done, because of the fact that we don't have lots of play spaces in the city, is to work around what we have, and those are the school spaces. The French embassy very soon will be hosting the Hungarian ambassador. We are working with them, first with the French embassy and Uganda Olympic Committee. We have constructed 3 all-weather courts within our schools. For our viewers who stay in Zambia, for example, or near Nachivo Blue Primary School, we have all-weather courts there. These all-weather courts comprise, you can play different games there. But while the children use them during the week and during the day, the community can come through in the evenings, pay a little fee, because like some said, we have to maintain those spaces, and have fun with the children, play football with teams, and really relax and unwind and remain healthy. So that is one of the things that we're doing. But also we are looking at the other spaces that we have around the city. How can we work together with partners to improve them, to make them conducive to grow grass, and make them really fun places to stay and work and play from.
Is there a plan to work with those around who we are talking councils, Chira and others, in leaving some space that your residents and theirs can share, and you share cost in terms of developing these to solve the problem we are talking about?
I think that would be the best way to go, because you realize that Kampala is ceasing to be just the city.
We're talking now
we are
metropolitan.
Working about the greater Kampala, and definitely when we do that, most of the people who work in the city go back to those other districts around us. So there is that partnership that is slowly building. I'm not Justice, but I just noticed the road that is being constructed all the way up to Kajansi. You know, all those are things that we're doing as a city to make sure that we're in partnership with everyone around us, and we can do things together for the good of our people.
Okay. Sam, coming back to you, revenue collection. Some say, that is SOME. Some say that some people, when they come to collect revenue, they don't seem like they work for KCCA. They seem as if they're agents of the devil who have no mercy and just don't want any explanation. All they want is money and threaten. Is this still the case, or are we talking to people who knew Uganda of yesterday and no longer the case?
Thank you, Samson. I think the nature of people have trained are different.
Okay.
Our revenue team, basically the staff called revenue collectors, have got a human face, collecting taxes with a human face and with a smile.
Is it just the face, human face and human heart, or the face but the heart is different?
Everything has got a humanity in it.
Okay.
However, sometimes we mix up issues. We mix up enforcement team with revenue.
Okay.
Enforcement team normally enforces regulations, including trade order. And sometimes they are mistaken to be part of the revenue team.
Okay.
Of course, when we are enforcing...
Oh, the enforcement don't work for KCCA?
They work for KCCA, but they are...
They are yet to get the human face.
I'll come back to that, because we have of recent terminated some of them through public service, those who do not have a human face. But what we are saying that when we are collecting revenue, sometimes we enforce, and our enforcement is locking up the place, and after a thorough notes given to the client. And we don't use a lot of force when we are closing. Closing is just putting a seal. But where forces are used are areas when there is enforcement on trade order downtown. I think that's when people mistake it to be revenue collectors.
Okay.
But the revenue officers have got a human face, and we are training them to have the human heart of revenue collectors like there world over. I have gone to a certain country where the police can arrest you when he's smiling. And you may be knowing those police officers.
I do.
Yes?
Yes, I do.
But someone,
any revenue collector that looks like you, I'm happy to face.
that's the type of people we are trying to train, who can be able to manage the society we are living in, to understand the dynamics of people, the poverty which people may be facing, the amount of capital which they are having, so that we do not cripple business. Ours to have business grow so that we can collect more money other than crippling them. Okay. And before we enforce, we give ample notes. We have even gone ahead to allow people to pay an installment where you cannot pay a lump sum. I think that's a good approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd honestly like anybody to come to my address and say, I am working on behalf of Mr. Sam Serunkuma. You haven't paid over the last 2 months. Can you please follow us to our offices at City Hall? That would be cute.
I wanted to say something about the enforcement team as well, that we have of late been using more of the communication, of sensitizing the public, of making them aware of where they should be and where they shouldn't be. So really, the entire team is trying very hard to make sure that the person, the client out there, comes to understand, appreciate what they must or must not do without necessarily being very aggressive and forceful with them.
And still on that, there's a view that the Muntua Wansi, and I'll raise this to all of us for conversation, that the Muntua Wansi, so-called, has a right to break the law, because what else can they do? They have a right to sell on the streets, in the roads. They can put their merchandise anywhere because they are Muntua Wansi. Where else do you want them to go? So then there's that view. There's another view that says, no, in every nation there's Muntua Wansi, but there's also order. How do we get the balance for Kampala, where there is also politics? And I've had politicians defend the first group saying, but they're poor. What do you want them to do? Let them stay there. Some are saying, yeah, even in the houses of the poor, there's a sitting room where everybody does not do whatever they want there. What's your view, Justice?
I think you have hit it on the nail. Even in a house, you have order. And we need to reach a point where, as city dwellers, or people who use the city, who come to the city for services, we love our city. We should love our city. And by loving our city is that we should respect every user of the city. In other words, someone who puts merchandise on the road should think about the vehicle that is supposed to be using that road and then stop doing it. Someone who is putting merchandise where people are supposed to walk should think about where will people walk and then stop doing it, because each activity has its right designated place.
Okay.
And if we really respect those places, then we can enjoy the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the view?
I think there's a belief that people are trading on the road because they have nowhere to trade from, which may not be true.
What's the truth?
The fact is that we have a lot of space in the markets. And we are trying to even open up evening markets to ensure that these people are given space on what would be the walkways during the day, and they trade from there, but not on the main road. However, people want to trade near where the customers are. And this has created that form of confusion, which is in downtown. We have opened up many spaces for work. Kasubi Market, for instance, is new. I'll give you an example, that even when they opened up Kasubi Market, people have gone back to the road. Okay? Usaf has got a lot of working space, but people move away and go to the road. I think we need to engage our people. We need to train them. We need to educate them on how business is run. Okay. Business is not run by you chasing the customer. The customer will always find you so long as you have good goods and well displayed space.
Okay. Speaking Kasubi markets, I'm not so sure there is space in Kasubi for a market if we're still speaking about the same Kasubi, because sometimes what they call a market is responsible for traffic jam. I've also seen the same around Kalerwe, the market literally eating into the road. Still, I think it's education there that you've spoken about that continuing. I'll come back to you. He mentioned people paying for street lighting and all, and there are still people on social media asking, which street lighting is he talking about? In Kampala, what's the plan for street lighting? And I'd also ask, maybe share with you, in some place I know, not too far from here, in a country within this region, what they've done is that the city has imported a unique design of light that nobody else is allowed to import. That stops these lights from being stolen, because you can't use it. They'll ask you where you got it, because it only belongs to the city. What can we do? A, in increasing street lighting, because that's one reason why there's a lot of vagabonds around, and two, that when it's there, it stays.
Thank you, and thank you viewers for that question. Kampala Capital City Authority has put in place the Kampala Street Lighting Master Plan, a well-researched document, and is now ready for implementation. We are planning in the near future to put up 20,000 lights. We've already secured the funding from the French Development Agency. And so we will have a huge boost over the 5 years from the roughly 8%. Actually, by the way, if you consider the whole city, we are just 8% lit. 8% lit. But as a strategic move towards the smart city, we want to push that to 80%.
So the 20,000 will take us to 80%?
By putting 20,000 lights in Kampala, we'll shoot up to 80%. And that has quite wonderful advantages. One, you will actually help some to collect more money, because economic activity will increase. Markets will be booming way deep into the night. So some will be able to collect more money. But also, the other strategic goal is to have a safe city.
Okay.
With the lit city, security will be guaranteed. And of course, the safety of the pedestrians moving,
and the tourists as well.
the tourism industry
the gaucho
will also be moving up. So
even those who want to date can date in the night.
All right. Yes. Those who want to walk.
The ladies will
it will be a very wonderful walk during the night.
Yes.
So that's being planned. But talking about the design, it's unfortunate that we don't love our city. You are right. Just a few years ago, maybe 1 or 2, we installed lights, solar lights, and we said now people of Kampala are disciplined, let's put batteries just underground.
They're gone.
All of them were gone. So we have come up with a design where our batteries will be just close towards the panel. And as you rightly said, the same design, those batteries will be in such a way that they will not be used in another location. They will be location specific.
So you take it out, doesn't work?
Even if you bring it from old Kampala to Kololo, it will not work.
Amen.
And then the pole will be enhanced with spikes so that those who like climbing will not have a good time climbing to those lights.
And those who knock them, what happens to them? Do they pay for them?
Oh, yes.
Or accident, too bad, we replace?
We do. The moment we get the vehicle number, we arrest that number, and the owner has to pay.
Okay.
I collect the money.
And he collects the money.
Sam, what happens if the person who knocks with a car, he can't have the money? Are we looking at auctioning the car?
Of course, it becomes a police case.
Okay.
You cannot run away when you have a case.
And in the meantime, we replace the light and then pursue?
Yes, because the light must be replaced, but the bill will ever come to the person who has knocked the pole.
Okay.
Yeah, whether by mistake or by accident, it is your responsibility. This is a public good anyway.
Okay, very interesting. Yes, you're continuing with that. So that's the master plan.
So that's the master plan. And I want to assure the citizens of Kampala that that's not going to be far. Beginning next financial year, I think we'll be moving into implementation.
Very interesting. You're watching Spotlight Uganda, and we want your questions to keep coming. We've got the Directorate of Engineering and Technical Services here. An engineer, full engineer, is here. We've got the Directorate of Education and Social Services and the Directorate of Revenue Collection. Sam, what challenges do you face in revenue collection? Are we a city where generally people know they have an obligation, or a city where people are like, if I have a chance not to pay, I'll pay? What has been your observation?
Thank you, Sir Samson. Of course, we have challenges when we are administering these taxes. One of the challenges is low compliance. I think people of Kampala pay a lot of taxes, and that has created a low compliance system in them, to the extent that some of them come and tell you that we are paying this. We thought that when we are paying a rental tax in URA, we are paying property tax. So compliance is low, but we are taking it on ahead, and we are engaging them. And like I've told you before, we are allowing installment to improve compliance. We are also sending these SMS when people have not complied. And whenever they pay, we also acknowledge using SMS. This has a little bit improved the compliance level, not at the level at which we want it. Another challenge may be...
Maybe still on that, talking education, which is a mandate here. Do you think that Kampalans, especially those who have been around enough before it became a city, understand that in many cities world over, the moment you live in a city, you pay dues, this due, that due, this due, that due? Do you think people understand that the moment you talk city, you are going to talk paying dues of all tribes, colors, and shade?
Not absolutely. The very reason I've told you that we have changed our method of work. We are now engaging using LOCs.
Okay.
So once we engage the LOCs, and
who also have their own dues.
Yes, they may be having their dues, but we are trying to create the critical mass.
Okay.
Once we create the critical mass from the ground, then people will get on understanding why they should pay and how much they should pay. Another challenge we are facing is impersonation. We have a lot of people impersonate. You see that logo of KCC can easily be forged. And the people keep on forging it, and they go and masquerade as revenue collectors, and they get money from would-be clients. And of course, a lot of corruption is still in place. The taxpayer who does not want to pay the due tax would rather pay a bribe than paying the due tax. So we have people who fall victims of the masqueraders. Another challenge is about the volumes of taxes which would be collecting. Like I've told you, we have pending ordinances. Without law, I cannot collect the taxes. I have told you that we have these signs. They are called the tools which people use to advertise. Many of them are not paying because we don't have an enabling law. But if they were all paying, I would be collecting over 12 billion per annum out of that tax type. Again, I've told you that we are not collecting from markets as of now because there's no enabling law. I've spent 3 years without collecting from taxes because of enabling law. So the laws are a challenge. And now we are engaging our political friends, the councillors, to engage them to ensure that they speed up the ordinance process, and also engaging the Office of the Attorney General so that this process of ordinance is speeded up.
And to be honest, many of the persons who should be sorting that out are your residences.
Of course.
Why is it difficult to reach them?
We do reach them, but it's a process. Making a law takes a little bit longer because through the authority itself, it has the first reading, the second reading, then the third reading, and this must be ordinary councils, which are called once in 2 months. So that process, I think there is some of these processes of making ordinances.
Okay.
Yeah. We still have other challenges. The challenges of the revenue. What can I call them? The revenue, the types of revenue we should collect.
Okay.
We are still
revenue streams.
The streams, they are still low. Like I've told you, we look around and we see that we could be getting money from here and there. I've already pointed to you that I'm looking at empty land, but there is still no law governing it. But we are looking at new streams which can gear up this city to a level where we can be self-sustaining. So much as we have the one which have got laws in place, there are still areas which are still vague. And now, convincing our leaders that we can get money from these sources is still also a struggle. I've talked about the owner-occupied properties, for example. Here in Inaguru, if someone is living in his own house, he does not pay tax, but he expects services. If someone is renting a small house down in Bwaise, he will pay property tax because renting out. So we are trying to engage the political leaders, Minister of Finance, that look here, let these people who are living in, say, posh places pay some property tax, but at a lower rate. Let us have bands for people who are living in their own houses so that they can contribute also to the city. Fortunately, they like the services very much. They like the nice roads, they like the lights, and a very good service. But this comes at a fee.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's interesting that the poor can live with a bad road, and who are contributing, the rich who are not contributing, cannot live with a bad road, because they're the first to complain on social media. Isn't that the case?
Maybe sometimes they do complain. But everybody would be entitled to have a good road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Coming back to yourself, what has COVID-19 changed about our thinking on delivery of education services? Because we don't have any guarantees that this is the first and last pandemic, do we?
Thank you. COVID-19, one good thing about COVID-19, I must say, is that it's helped us to become more hygienic. Because if you have to wash your hands all the time with soap and water, especially in the school settings, the learners, especially the younger ones, and the old ones as well, when they go out to have fun, when they go out to play, they tend to come back when they're really dusty and have had fun. So that is a good thing in terms of hygiene. But most important of all, it has made us think outside the box. While in the past we've had schools working with their learners on a face-to-face model, we now have to think about e-learning. We have to think about virtual classrooms. We have to think about virtual lessons with our teachers. It's going to come with the need for resources. Schools that are able can do that better. Schools that are struggling, government-aided schools will have to think about what do we do to make sure that at the end of the day, the learners are not necessarily being taught directly by the teacher in front of them. So it's giving us another perspective of learning, but it's also enabling the learners to have some ability to research on their own. Many times in many of the schools, the teachers tend to think that they know it all and the learners know nothing. But with COVID, a student is asked to go out and carry out research. So parents who can afford smartphones for their learners, these are things we're going to think about. Many schools, especially the schools that follow the national program, do not expect our young people to have smartphones with them. Okay. But with the way we are going, smartphones, if they're well regulated, can be used by the learners in the classrooms to ease up on what they're learning and to carry out research and have better learning experiences.
I know that you have experiences from elsewhere where a child cannot cross from Bugorobi to go to a school in Zambia. The only way it is, if you want a school in Zambia, you shift the family and live in Zambia and study in Zambia. And it's very common. True. People move that way. Yes. Do we still need schools inside the Central Business District? Because we all notice that during school breaks, there's no jam. Because most of the morning jam is down to people moving this direction. Are we still in need of schools in the Central Business District? And two, maybe asking him, isn't it about time, as we move the ones we have, we stop allowing more within a certain region? I think this question for both of you.
Twofold.
Yeah.
Personally, if you asked me, we still have children all over the city. We still have children in the Central Business area. We still have parents who stay within the Central Business area. When you look at schools like Nakasero, for example, schools like Buganda Road, schools that like Nachivo Blue, Nachivo Settlement.
But I was coming from Kansanga to go to Nakasero. If there was a good school in Kansanga, which later came, I'm not so sure about it.
Yes.
But then I wouldn't have to come to Nakasero.
Very true. So the children whose parents are within this area definitely still need these spaces. But like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we are really making sure we do is to have good schools, model schools across the city, away from the CBD. Okay. So that if a parent stays in Kawempe, they don't necessarily have to bring their children every morning, very early in the morning at 5 a.m. to bring a child to Nakasero. Instead, they'll take them to the school next to them. So that is the model that we are looking at. How can we make sure that all the schools that we have, CBD has only 13 out of the 79. How can we make sure that all the other schools around it are actually very well done, are conducive for learning? Because the beauty is that all the teachers in our schools are professionals. They are licensed, they're certified, they're the right teachers to teach. We just need to work on the environment, the spaces, so that parents are comfortable wherever they are and they can keep their children there.
Okay. Engineer, as we talk about planning in terms of, what's your take? Do you think we can change the dynamic so that traffic is moving that way in the morning, as opposed to all of us pouring this way, and then in the evening we all rushing to pick them, to take them home? And two, as well, what's the plan in making sure that the mistakes, we draw a line, and beyond that we're not giving anybody the right to put up anything wrong going forward?
Thank you, Samson. I think with our planning document, schools can still be in the Central District, but we need to regulate them. However, one of the things that as a city we are looking at that could actually also help in solving that problem of traffic jam because of having parents bringing their children in the city is to move towards improving public transport.
Okay.
Whereby we have a system whereby it is scheduled and it is moving on time. So I do not have to bring my child to town. The child can safely go on the bus, reach school on time, and go back on time.
The problem with that, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is unlike in many places where you will find top public servants, rich people on the same bus or on the same train, in Uganda, the view seems that if you are in public transport or good day, things are doing badly financially. So how do we work out that it's okay to be in public transport? It is not a statement on your finances.
Definitely, Samson, as you develop these systems, you've got to work at the mindset of the public. Last year, around November, December there, I was in Cape Town. And I was pleased to see school children using public transport.
Okay.
But this public transport is scheduled. If it is to be here at 8 a.m., it's there. If it is to reach there at 7 a.m., it's there. And I didn't see private cars carrying children. So I think we can.
Okay.
We can.
Okay.
Can I augment?
We can move.
Yes.
I think the success of our model schools will determine the way forward.
Okay.
If these model schools are successful, and
if or when?
When
and they will
Okay.
be.
when they are successful,
Okay.
we are going to create more model schools in each of the divisions.
yes.
This will cut off movement of children in one way or another.
All right, we have just about 2 minutes. I'll give each one of you, I'll steal a minute and give each one of you a minute for your concluding remarks. I'll begin there, then there, and by rule, we'll end in the middle. So we'll begin with you, Engineer Justus Akankwasa.
Thank you, Samson. My communication to the citizens of Kampala is that we need to love our city.
Okay.
We've talked about, for example, the drainage challenge. But when you go to where these floods are, you will find there a heap of bottles blocking the system. You will find there buvelas. You will find there matoke peelings. In other words, we need to, as a city, on an individual basis, work on how to manage our solid waste management.
Thank you very much. It may not matter the size of the drainage. If we continue to have the bad habits, we still have the ability to block
We need
them.
to work on that.
I think that's what I hear you saying. In conclusion?
Thank you, Samson. It has been a pleasure hosting us. But I have to call upon the people of Kampala to continue complying in paying taxes. If each of us was contributing a little of what he gets, then we can build a very big basket where we can draw resources to finance all these activities which we want. Nobody is going to give us this money for free. Even if we went to the World Bank, it's not going to give us free money to tarmac the roads, to put up the street lights we want, or to put up the public transport. This country is going to be built by us, and we can if everybody contributed something.
Thank you very much. And finally,
From me, thank you very much. I want to thank the Kampalans for loving their children, for wanting them to have an education. And I want to urge all of them to make sure that they have their children in school, that they enter, stay, and exit when they have succeeded. When we build an educated group of people around us, then definitely all these things my colleagues are talking about will come to an end, because everyone will be very aware of the fact that it's important for them to love the city, to love their country, and protect and treasure what they have. So many thanks to our viewers and parents.
Thank you so much, Engineer Justus Akankwasa. Thank you so much, Lady Juliet Namudu and Mr. Sam Serunkuma, and indeed the entire team at KCCA for coming to speak to those to whom you provide services. And I'd like to finish it off by saying this, that it is down to us in Kampala to determine what exactly we want in our city. You may argue that KCCA is not collecting the rubbish, but somebody will also ask, who puts the rubbish not in the bin but on the street? In some cities where people have brains that work, they've already figured out that it is easier to put the rubbish in the bin than to put it on the street and wait for the council to be collecting it. The decision is ours. They've also already figured out that when you sell in markets and organized spaces, chances are you will make more money than selling in a disorganized manner. The choice is ours. This is our Kampala. When we make it better, we will make more, all of us. A very good evening to those of us who are in Kampala, but also the tourists who came from whichever village you came from. We thank you for being here. Somebody has said Kampala is usually more organized when the villagers go back to their place. We can debate that on social media.
Kampala, capital city of Uganda, the place many Ugandan chooses to work and live. Home to 2 million people by night and provides livelihood to over 5 million by day, from living conditions to working ones, from infrastructure to, well, just about everything. This Monday, 15th March 2021, Kampala Capital City Authority, KCCA, joins Samson Kasumba to, among other things, speak Kampala Smart City. From where Kampala has been to where we are now and where we want to be, clearly outlining how we get there. SpotLightUG, Mondays at 10 p.m, live on UBC TV.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Shot put is an Olympic sport. You throw a small but heavy metal ball as far as you can.